My name is Catherine Kalergis. I want to thank you all for being here and thank our speakers, Hugo Colombo and Camilo Miguel. We're going to get into development today. The Miami market has slowed from its post-pandemic highs, but there's still a lot going on. New projects continue to be launched. Some projects are on hold. Lenders still have confidence in the market. I want to talk a little bit first about market weaknesses. What weaknesses are you both keeping a close eye on?
Sure.
Or not.
We're keeping an eye on the next opportunity. That's obviously, now which one is the next opportunity is the difficult question. Yes, the market has softened in certain sectors. There's been a lot of product that has been presented to the market, and has always been, there's more supply than demand, except some short period of time in the Miami and in general in the US market, but Miami's been one of the fastest swings. There are certain projects that have been presented that maybe they couldn't get financing, or it was just the best wins, and I think that's just simply that. There's been times maybe where the demand was so high that the supply fell behind it, but in general, the supply tends to stay in front of the demand.
What do you think, Camilo?
We're keeping an eye on a few things. The cost environment is something that we're closely monitoring all the time. We've seen a bit of a decline in construction costs, but with tariffs, I think you've seen a slight uptick. But net, we still think construction costs are in a decent place right now, at least across the projects that we're looking at, in the luxury condo side. We are monitoring insurance costs all the time because that's a big variable here in the state of Florida. But we've also seen a slight decline in insurance cost here. We had a decent storm season, so that was very helpful for us. And then obviously we're always monitoring interest rates. We saw some slight declines this year so far in rates, and I think our outlook for next year is we'll continue to see some additional reductions in interest rates. In regards to the market in general, I would say that the luxury market continues to remain strong. Paragon in Miami Beach, which we're continuing to see a tremendous amount of traffic, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit more later, and then Cipriani as well. We actually had a pretty good summer in Cipriani and Paragon, which was a good surprise because a lot of people were traveling a lot in July and August. We're seeing some commodity product, and maybe it's not moving at the pace that the market would like to see. But in general, our outlook remains positive, and obviously there's a lot of things happening in the world and the country that I think will continue to drive success for Florida. But we can't ignore some of the headwinds that will exist out there as cycles continue to.
Are either of you in the market right now for construction financing?
We're not in the market for construction financing at the moment, but we are seeing a robust financing market out there. We've seen spreads tighten significantly for both multifamily construction as well as condo construction. So deals that we're seeing get done are actually getting done at some very attractive rates today. And our outlook is that will hopefully continue. At least maybe that's wishful thinking on our part.
With so many new projects, how do you...
Let me...
Yeah.
So as far as we are concerned, that we have construction financing. One project is almost done. One, we're going to close financing the next, hopefully by the end of the year, but it's a done deal. We saw on the high end, in the Four Seasons product, we saw an extreme demand from lenders to jump into the project. So we had, actually, we could choose, we had many choices to go from. I'm also looking at another project, which I haven't announced, which is a bigger, higher, taller building. And there I see some resistance from lenders. On a middle market, higher number of units, higher building, there is a little bit of resistance in that kind of product.
But not the high end.
But not the high end.
Okay, interesting. With so many projects underway, how do you differentiate your developments from the competition? think, Ugo, maybe you want to take that first.
Well, my philosophy from when I started has always been deliver the best possible product. Don't look at making the last penny. Look at making your customer happy, because that eventually is going to pay off at the end. So I am not there looking at, which one is the least expensive model for a refrigerator or a dishwasher. I'm looking at delivering the best on the market. Maybe the profitability, actually not maybe, the profitability suffers some on the short term, but I think it pays off on the long term.
I mean, listen, you've built a reputation of delivering quality in this market, which is why your projects continue to do so well. And we try to focus on similar things as well. And sometimes we turn to branding to try to accomplish, to try to reduce friction and be able to create momentum and drive revenue as well. So I think branding is one of the things that we look at, because maybe branding could be symbolic of hospitality or design or food and beverage or whatever the things that will appeal to the customer that we're trying to target to acquire in our projects. But design and quality is certainly at the forefront of the things that we think about constantly, and it's definitely a big part of our ethos. And so also just location, architects, the people that we hire to work on our projects, interior designers, our art program, culinary programs, all those things play a role in every project that we do. But there's a time for branding, we think, and then there's a time where it's just not necessary because it doesn't necessarily elevate the location. Sometimes the location speaks for itself and the quality of what we're going to deliver as well.
What?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, what went into, because you're developing the Four Seasons in Coconut Grove with 4 partners. How did that come about? How did you decide on that brand and that partner?
Well, the brand was more, it's a no-brainer. Was a matter of convincing Four Seasons to come into the project. I had bought the land during COVID. I thought Coconut Grove was going to be the next upcoming area in Miami, just like Brickell was when I started my career. And I was friends with Nadim from Fourth, and we got together and we were talking. And Nadim has the exclusivity for the Four Seasons brand in South Florida. So, we got together and we thought it would be, a great partnership. So we joined forces and we moved forward with the development of the project, which is actually breaking ground tonight.
And you've both been active. You mentioned Brickell, where you started your career, Santa Maria in the 90s. You have Cipriani residences. Would you start a project in Brickell today, given everything that's been going on and how the market's changed?
If you find me the land, waterfront.
The answer is we would if we were able to program the right product in the right location. I think Brickell is a market that we would want to do branding around, and I think it needs to be more hospitality-centric. And I think that there will be a continued, an ongoing buyer for that market. And with all the new office that's coming into the market, including Citadel's new office building, Banco Santander's new office building, I think just Brickell's really becoming an 18-hour community. And everything's walkable there, and you have great restaurants. I mean, Amazonic is doing well. There's Claudia right down the street. You have Chateau Zizi. So there's a lot of places, City Center. I mean, it's really a live, work, play environment now. And I think in terms of the urban core, it's certainly the best place to live if you wanted to live in the urban core of our city. And so I wouldn't ignore that market. And we are looking at doing something else there, but we're not quite ready to put it forth.
How are sales at Cipriani? Pre-sales?
Cipriani sales are great. I mean, we're north of 70%. What's interesting at Cipriani is we were approximately 70% international buyers across the building and 30% domestic. But this year, we're actually 50-50. So we've seen a big uptick on the domestic side. And I think that's probably a testament to the pace and speed of where we're moving construction. So we're building it with Moss. They're doing a great job. We're 4 months ahead of schedule on construction there, and we're continuing to move rapidly, and I think that's drawn a lot more domestic attention. because I think your domestic buyer likes to see the project moving forward. And listen, Paragon, same way. We're more than halfway up both buildings on construction. And Cipriani, we're north of 70, and Paragon, we're north of 80% sold, and we continue to see strong traffic.
Where do both of you see opportunities today for land, partnerships?
Let me talk 1 second about the market, as to expand a little bit on what, because I started way before most people here, and at the time of Bristol Tower, which was my first building, and actually before that I was involved with the Imperial and Villa Regina. You couldn't sell a unit to a U.S. person if you give it away.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You couldn't sell what?
You couldn't sell you couldn't sell a unit to a U.S. person if you gave it away back then, and COVID has completely turned the market around. I mean, before COVID, it turned to a 50-50, and now the market has completely turned around. I think 90% of our sales are to U.S. People, which is, I find it the biggest change in the Miami positioning as a city in the world and in the United States. I just wanted to add to what he was saying about sales.
Yeah, definitely. And then in terms of opportunities, where are you looking? What are you seeing?
I mean, look, we're looking at opportunities statewide because there are many other markets that continue to thrive across the state. In terms of Southeast Florida, we're looking at the West Palm market. We're certainly continuing to look at Miami, Miami Beach, and where else are we looking right now for sale residential? I mean, these are the markets that in our eyes continue to remain strong and will continue to remain robust. So that's where we're focusing a lot of our energy.
What about condo buyouts? Are either of you? I know you have a condo buyout in progress. Do you have any update on that, or?
No, that's moving along as it should. We're going to be doing a great project there, which we're really excited about. I'm not ready to announce what it's going to be, but it's going to be something quite special that's going to improve the skyline.
Ugo, are you looking at any? Would you do any condo buyouts?
No.
Why? They sound easy.
Too big of a headache. I'm not saying it's not a great opportunity, but it was my choice to not look into that.
What about? Are you considering, stalled projects? Have you looked at any stalled projects to kind of come in and take over or add equity to a development that's not yours? Anything like that?
We're looking at one opportunity, which is not in Southeast Florida, but it is in South Florida. That's not necessarily a stalled project, but it's a project where the existing ownership needs some assistance and help on the execution side. And so we are likely going to get involved before the end of the year in that. And that'll be something we'll touch on when the time is right. But there are a few of those opportunities where sometimes people may be short on capital and need some help on execution that we look at. We're not seeing a lot of it, but we're seeing a little bit.
Obviously, one big topic so far at the forum has been the election of Zohran Mamdani in New York. And agents in Miami are obviously very excited. They expect a huge wave of New Yorkers to come. What are you hearing? What do you expect to see?
I think that we will see another influx of New York. I don't think it's going to be anything near what COVID brought to Miami, but I was yesterday at the business forum, and I ran into two people, coincidentally, that told me, we were talking about the market in Mondami, and both of them said that they were two New Yorkers they were looking at, and yesterday they signed. Said, okay, definitely we're coming. So there will be an influx. I don't know how much is going to swing the market, but we'll see New Yorkers moving to Florida.
So something that we experienced yesterday is actually a few things. One is, so at Paragon, we usually get 3 to 5 new leads in a project at the Paragon specifically. And yesterday we got 10 new leads, and all 10 were New York leads. So are these big numbers? Not necessarily, but I think it's symbolic of potentially what's to come, because I think it's certainly top of mind for New Yorkers to be considering a move and a transition down to South Florida. I also got 2 calls yesterday from 2 friends of mine that run hedge funds, which Catherine, you and I were talking about in the back, that are saying we're going to move some key team members next year, make that a positive experience, and the goal is by end of 2027 to move the majority of the organization down to Miami. And so, I think it's certainly top of mind. I think sometimes people need something to actually push them over the edge so that they can actually pull the trigger and come down. And I think this is one of those things that that's going to create tension in New York, and is going to reduce the friction that maybe existed for some people in wanting to come down to South Florida. In South Florida, you really have a conversion of a pro-business environment, a low-tax, a no-tax environment generally, and just an incredible lifestyle with good education. I mean, it's hard to ignore.
Are you shifting your marketing money? Are you going to spend more money targeting, New York buyers, anything like that?
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday that we need to increase our marketing budget in New York. And I don't know, but I'm sure you're doing the same.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at doing more activations in New York City for sure. Because I think when you're in front of people, it's a lot better than when you're just trying to advertise or just providing outreach remotely. So we want to be present in New York in a more active way. We've already done a pretty good job executing in New York, but we think we can do a little bit better job today, especially considering the environment and the circumstances.
And the buyer makeup is still 50-50, foreign, domestic? That's what you had said?
The buyers this year for Paragon were 50-50. Our existing sales are 70 domestic, 30 foreigners at Paragon Miami Beach. But this year, we sold 50% domestic, 50% international for 2025.
And I want to go back to branding. So obviously, we talked about the Four Seasons. We talked about Cipriani. In general, how do you go about selecting a brand, and which brands do you find work and which ones don't?
Well, I've always resisted in the course of my career branding unless I see branding tied to lifestyle services and high-end. So I've been very selective in what I wanted to associate a project with. I thought Four Seasons would have been a great association, a great brand. And I'm looking to find something similar for the project I mentioned. Now I don't want to, but I would not go into branding a building with anything that's not fully lifestyle related.
No cars?
No.
No. What about you?
Listen, Four Seasons is certainly a best-of-breed brand. For us, it's a similar mentality. It's really about lifestyle, hospitality, and the things that are going to appeal to our buyers. It's also important to us that the brand we put on a project elevates the project. At Paragon, we didn't think we needed a brand. We were right. We've broken records in terms of per square foot numbers that we've sold some units at.
What are the records?
I can't necessarily say some of that, but at Paragon, the focus there was really quality, design, finishes, culinary experience, our wine program, our program, all those things. And when we were able to bring all those things together, it really appealed to our buyers, and that's why Paragon's continued to do incredibly well, and will continue to do so. But it's really about the brand elevating the location. It needs to drive additional revenue because there's a cost associated with the brand, and then it also needs to drive velocity. So those are the things that we consider. But certainly at the forefront in regards to our branding view, I think it's similar to Ugo's, which is hospitality and lifestyle more specifically.
If I may speak about Camilo's project, I 100% agree. Paragon, the luxury, the high end, the location, doesn't need a brand, it sells itself. And Cipriani is a fantastic brand related to lifestyle, and that was, I think, a fantastic choice. So I think we're a little bit in the same frame of mind as far as branding goes.
And
and said that, I don't mean to say that other choices of brands that other developers have made are wrong. It's just it was my choice to not do that.
Right. So with Vita at Grovile, that is its own brand, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how is that? Can you give us an update on that project?
The project is close to getting TCO, and there is 10 units left to sell out of 65, so that's 80-something%.
Are those the most expensive units, the ones that are left?
No.
No?
They're mixed. I've always been very careful in all my project to not end up with a cluster of units the same and to adjust prices so that there is a bit of everything toward the end of the project and don't end up with so there's 2 high-end units out of the 10 and the rest are mixed. I mean high-end, I mean the biggest unit, and the rest are mixed of what's the product in the building is.
What inventory is left at your developments?
It's a mix as well. Any given year, smaller units could sell faster. This year, we've been selling a lot of higher price point units. For example, at Cipriani, in general, at Paragon, that's an expensive product because of what it is and the quality of what it is. But it's generally a mix of, one of the things that we have to do as developers all the time is manage inventory. Because like Ugo's saying, like you don't want to get stuck with this cluster of inventory that is not necessarily positioned to perform, and we manage that inventory very carefully. So it's a real mix and a diversity of product that exists in both our projects.
How do you market your projects around these big, sports events? There's F1, there's all kinds of things that Miami now has to offer. How does that help you sell your developments? And does it help you?
It helps us because it brings a lot of attention to our great city. It helps us also because we many times will host events because different race teams may reach out to us or different sports teams or whatever those things might be, and we'll host events for them. We'll host speakers for them. And so that brings traffic through our project. But when the city's bustling and there's a lot of people visiting our great city and they're enjoying their time here, it also allows us an opportunity to get in front of them and draw attention to things that we're doing. And those things are all just positive things that continue to elevate our community here.
One thing that we've covered before is just the slow permitting process, depending on which city you're working in and all of that. New to market developers are less experienced and may not, be as familiar, and so it takes a lot longer to get some of these buildings done. But how do you navigate, the permitting process and issues like that as you're building?
Well, South Florida is very fraction. So, every city of Miami being the biggest one, but then, you have a lot of smaller city and the building process goes through those smaller communities. So you have to navigate by understanding what the requirements are. And in the city of Miami, it's kind of easy and streamlined. But, in the smaller communities, it can be difficult to go through the building process. But it might take a little longer. But, eventually, I've always got through.
I mean, I would just say persistence. It's definitely it's a big challenge. I think that continues to exist across many municipalities, and we struggle with it because time is money, and when you're trying to deal with permits and you're trying to navigate those municipalities, it becomes a challenge because it takes longer than it needs to. And so
how much longer? What are the delays?
I think many months, just very project specific and municipality specific, but I'm hopeful that we can figure out a way to streamline the permitting process, because I think that could even make some projects a little bit more viable if you can get them out of the ground a lot faster. Because it costs a lot of money to sit there waiting to process your permits. But in regards to our team, it's just persistence. That's really all we could say, and you just got to keep driving forward and having meetings and pushing it.
Are you showing up at City Hall, or?
No, I am not showing up at City Hall.
Okay. What about infrastructure? There has been, obviously.
Let me give you one
Sure.
positive about that. Is that in construction, the better set of drawings, the better coordinated drawings between the different MEP, structural you have, the more efficiently you build the building, the less delays you have, and the less change orders you have. So the positive side of being like maybe a hang waiting for a building permit, it gives you the chance to start construction with a better set of plans. Trying to get a positive out of like our delays and that we get with the city.
Are you building these? You're building these delays into your costs already. You already have an idea of how long it's going to take. Yeah.
We anticipate it.
Okay. With the huge influx of people coming from other states, from the Northeast, Midwest, California, obviously there's been a strain on our infrastructure. Is that something that gets in the way of some of your projects, and how do you navigate that?
I mean, infrastructure constantly comes up, but it absolutely does not get in the way of our projects. I don't think people are making the decision on moving to Miami based on traffic. We may not like traffic, but I don't think that's a driver or a variable when people are deciding if they're going to move to Miami. So it doesn't get in the way, at least not in any of our projects.
Well, sometimes you can get a little, sideways with the streets and DOT and curb cuts. But yeah, eventually it has never been a big problem.
I do want to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we have somebody here.
Are you picking or up? Oh. No, I didn't.
How do you approach the sales of your projects? How do you pick up the right salespeople and set up the goals and make sure that inventory is selling fast?
Well, that's like as with anything, you need to have, you need to pick the right people and pick the right agents, and you can go by the resume or you can go by the gut feelings, and generally the gut feelings and the interaction that you have when you interview someone is your main driver.
In some cases, it's people that we know and that have proven track records and proven success. And in other cases, it's really about the chemistry and how they're going to represent the project. Each project is not necessarily represented the same way. So I think you need to align the quality of the person and see if that is the appropriate chemistry and things that you need for your project and that they'll represent it well. But selling projects is a lot of hard work. So you need somebody who's going to be a hard worker, is going to have a great drive to do sales and do what it takes.
Thank you.
My question is to Hugo Colombo. But first of all, I want to applaud you for the really high quality of construction that you bring to this city. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then I want to ask you, you mentioned that you are not doing condo buyouts. Is there a specific reason for that? I had read that now 100% of owners need to be approving the sale. Is that still the case? Or what affects your decision in that?
It is a confusing, in my opinion, it's a confusing process. And I just by choice decided that I kind of like to have a clear picture where I'm heading maybe later in my career. And so I'm not saying that it's never going to happen. I just decided to not do that, or maybe to partner up with someone that already has a buyout almost completed, but to start a buyout from scratch, I've never done it.
So condo buyouts don't require 100% approval unless it's written that way in the association's declaration. So in the state of Florida, if you can have, I think you have to have at least 85% plus one to move forward, but because 5% can block it. So our member from the audience is referring to Biscayne 21, which is an older condo in Edgewater. Two Roads Development came in, bought a majority of units, voted to change the condo declaration so that the threshold to terminate the association was lower, and an appeals court ruled in favor of the holdout owners. So in that case, their original declaration stands, essentially. Any more questions? Oh, we have a question here.
Yes. I'm just kind of concerned that what's coming from New York, I don't know if you guys update. They're talking about 20,000 people that are already on the way here. They're leaving New York. And I guess how are we going to manage this? I moved from New York 4 years ago. It was not easy. But I'm talking about, and you know, talking about two big player in the market, and I feel like we're not ready, and it's gonna come to us like a hurricane. We're not ready.
We're not ready.
I'm sorry. And it's going to come like a hurricane. How are we going to be ready? Who can help us with?
Well, we definitely have a shortage of rental units, or the prices have substantially increased, and the feasibility of a multifamily has become more difficult due to the higher rates. So yes, there is. It's going to be difficult to accommodate in mass movement from New York without talking about infrastructure, roads, traffic, and schools, and everything else. Which I think is also one of the reasons why I don't think you're going to see this huge influx of New Yorkers. But you know,
We'll see, right?
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
You guys need to build more building. Come on, guys. You fall asleep.
I know. We need to find a way to do it cheaper.
We have a question, two questions there.
Here? Hi, good morning. Quick two-part question for the panel. With construction costs still volatile, have you ever considered teaming up across firms to place bulk material orders or coordinate procurement? And second, for an agent looking to break into development, if you were starting from scratch today, what would you do differently? Any book, mentor, or principally guided you early on? Thank you.
You go. Wait, you got to repeat the first question then, because I didn't understand.
Yeah, with construction costs basically being so volatile right now, have you guys ever thought about making large procurement orders together across firms?
And across projects, yeah.
Well, that's a difficult, you know, because first of all, we're not sure where construction costs are going. We're not sure what is going to happen with tariffs, which are affecting construction costs. You know, as you know, the Supreme Court is considering whether taxes are legal or not. So nobody's really ready to, particularly subs are not really ready to give you a firm price, or if it is subject to, you know, increase or in costs or tariffs. So that is one part. As far as large procurements, again, it's a risk. So, and it's also upfront capital, which has a cost. So no, you kind of like have to take the risk as you go with during construction, and I'm not saying that you couldn't, but I don't think it would be a wise idea.
Who's next? One more there.
Hi. One of you mentioned project in West Palm. So I've always been interested in what areas builders are going to: North Miami, North Bay Village, Fort Lauderdale. Like what's a couple of years out from just South Beach, Miami, Brickell?
We're not doing anything in North Bay Village or Fort Lauderdale right now. Although we look at some projects, we just haven't gotten comfortable with some of those opportunities. West Palm, we think, has a growing future, so we are looking for opportunity there. And then, you know, we also like markets in Tampa, some markets like Naples, even Sarasota's got some opportunities there. But all these markets are targeting different buyers, which we have to be very focused on and just make sure that that buyer's there. But I think generally across Florida, I think you'll continue to see the markets thrive. But some of the markets you mentioned are just not markets that we're very focused on today.
Okay, one there.
With regard to multifamily, how are you guys seeing the equity market right now? And is there interest from certain sectors of the equity market more than others?
I think that the equity, so the financing and debt markets are very strong, very robust. Leverage has come up, spreads have tightened, so cost of financing has come down, just your general cost of capital. On the equity side, there's still equity available for multifamily, but it needs to be shovel-ready coming out of the ground at the right yield to cost. And so institutional equity is being a little bit more selective about what multifamily they want to develop, and which has certainly changed from, let's say, 2 years ago.
I think we have time for one or two more. Somebody's over there.
Hi. At the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned that you saw Coconut Grove as the next opportunity to build. That was right after COVID. What led you believe that that was the right choice to buy land? And what are the principles that you took in order to take that choice? And what are the areas that you see that are going to have the same effect, in the next 5 years?
Well, my choice was, first of all, was a land banking situation. So it was during COVID, and it was an opportunity, and that's what I did. I thought, this waterfront land in Miami is scarcer and scarcer. South of downtown, that was pretty much the only piece of available waterfront land, and I thought that I couldn't go wrong, and so there was an opportunity, and I bought it. And as a matter of fact, it's still today the last waterfront available piece of land between downtown and South Miami. That's one part. The other part, I think Coconut Grove is an upcoming area, is the proximity to downtown financial center with the tranquility of a little village, the proximity to the university, to schools, fairly close to the airport, and with the growth of the downtown and Brickell area, all the restaurants and all the entertainment that you see that has been coming there in the past few years, I think Coconut Grove is a fantastic place to live.
Great. All right. Well, I want to thank our speakers. Thank you all.
Thank you for having us.